In order to become a storyteller, you first need to understand what a story is. Welcome to the Storytelling at Work podcast. I'm your host, Vinod Krishna, and here we talk about storytelling, communication, leadership, and more. Today, we are talking about something fundamental. What makes a story a story? So let's first define what a story is. A story is a connected sequence of events. You might think that anything with a beginning, middle, and end and in a sequence is a story, but that's not entirely true. It is about much more than just the sequence of events. So here's a quick exercise. Think of the last story you heard that stuck with you. Why does it linger in your mind? Chances are it wasn't just because of what happened in that sequence of events, but also because of the way it was narrated. So let's break down the essential elements that make a story. Every story has four elements. Number one is a character. Number two, a plot with a beginning, middle, and end. Number three, a conflict, which means a challenge or a choice. And number four, a message or resolution. To understand this better, let me share a story I recently heard in one of my workshops. A campaign manager, let's call her Ananya, she was handling a crucial online ad campaign for a very demanding client. This was 5 years ago, and while she was setting the campaign budget for this client, she made a typo. Instead of keying in $1,000, she added an extra zero and typed $10,000. So the next morning when she logged in, her heart almost stopped. She had spent 10 times the budget overnight. The relationship with this client wasn't very smooth lately, and she knew this mistake could very well mean losing this account. She just froze, and her initial thought was that she would definitely be fired. And she thought it's better to submit her resignation before she gets fired. She even thought of offering to pay back the loss from her own pocket. She prepared to meet her boss. She knew she couldn't justify this in any way and mentally decided to own up and take responsibility. But when she discussed with her boss, he listened calmly. Then instead of lashing out, he said, "We definitely have a situation here and we cannot undo what's happened, but let's find a way to salvage the situation. In fact, we've got data now that we did not have before. Let's see how we can leverage this." Ananya was stunned. She felt a sense of relief. She could feel her tensed face ease a bit. As she stepped out of that meeting, she learned a valuable lesson: how leadership is about responding to situations without crushing someone's spirit. Now, here's why the story works. First, the story isn't about any random person. There is a character, Ananya, and this character goes through a series of events, and this is what makes her relatable. We have all been there, feeling the pressure due to a mistake and the fear of the consequences. Next comes the plot. There is a clear beginning, a mistake that could cost her job. There is a build up, her fear and anxiety about the boss's reaction, as well as the feeling of regretting her oversight. And there is a resolution, the boss choosing to respond differently and turn the situation into a learning opportunity. Then there is conflict. It is not just the financial loss, it is the tension between taking responsibility and fearing the outcome. Conflict makes us empathize and connect with the character, even if it is momentarily. And finally, the message. It's about staying calm in a pressure situation and then choosing to respond in a way that turns failure into a valuable lesson. Now imagine, instead of telling the story, Ananya had said making mistakes at work can feel overwhelming, but having a leader who allows room for learning and growth makes all the difference. It doesn't feel the same, right? The elements of character, plot, conflict, and message are what makes the story memorable. And stories work because they make us feel what the character is going through, the actual situation. And stories do not just string facts, the sequence creates a journey. So, how do you put this to use in your business conversations where you intend to use a story? First, think of the message you want to give through the story. That is the purpose of the story. And then, when you think of what story you want to share, check if the story is apt for the message you want to convey. Then, determine the character who is central to the story. Who is the story about? And then come to the conflict. What is the conflict? What is the challenge or change in that story? And then the plot. Where will you begin the story? How will it progress? And how will it end? In short, how will you tell the story so that it unfolds in a way that holds the audience's attention? So go ahead and try this out. Thanks for tuning in to Storytelling at Work. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe and share it with someone who could use a bit of storytelling magic. And as always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or storytelling challenges at work. I'd love to hear from you.